the gunpowder treason and plot.
Most historical events fade. Most revolutionary attempts, may they be successful or not, become the subjects of textbooks. But there are some events that, perhaps more than any historical act of rebellion and resistance, carry within themselves a story that not only inspires, but reveals something fundamental about what it means to be a free human being.
I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
One such story is that of Guy Fawkes, who in the year of 1604 was recruited by a man called Robert Catesby and took part in a conspiracy to blow up the English Parliament. In the 16th and 17th century, under the rule of James I, England was a Protestant nation, one in which the state and faith were practically indistinguishable. Fawkes, like most of the British populace at the time, was born into a Protestant family, but during the early stages of his life, he converted to Catholicism. And at that time, to be a Catholic was to be a suspect, and any declaration of the Catholic faith was met with exclusion and persecution. But even so, the Catholic minority tried every legitimate route available to them: petitions, appeals, negotiations, all in vain. The conclusion: the system had no door left to open, and the result: the Gunpowder Plot. Pack 36 barrels of gunpowder beneath the House of Lords and, on the 5th of November 1605, blow the entire government, King James I included, into oblivion, and then place James's 9-year-old daughter Princess Elizabeth as a Catholic monarch. But at the last minute a letter arrived at Parliament with a warning, and in the early hours of the 5th of November, Fawkes was arrested in the cellar beneath Westminster. He was tortured for 2 days, and in January 1606 he was hanged, drawn, and quartered. It would be easy to read this as fanaticism, and to some extent it was. The question is not whether Fawkes and the conspirators were right. By any reasonable moral calculus, they were not. The question is how a 400-year-old failed assassination attempt became a universal symbol of public dissent.
His hope was to remind the world that fairness, justice, and freedom are more than words. They are perspectives.
After the failed assassination, a national holiday was established: the Thanksgiving Act of 1606, a celebration of the plot's failure. Church services, bells, bonfires, with the effigy burned being that of a traitor. The message was clear: here is what happened, here is who failed, the order endures, remember this. But over the years, something happened that is in itself revealing about the deeper meaning of this story. A holiday that once celebrated the invincibility of the state shifted into one that symbolized defiance against it. The effigies changed from the image of Guy Fawkes to whichever figure represented a threat to the way of life of the people. And by the time Alan Moore and David Lloyd began their work on the graphic novel V for Vendetta, the holiday that once embodied the power of the state had become a symbol of resistance to it. A symbol that found a global audience with the 2005 film adaptation.
The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta, held as a votive not in vain, for the value and veracity of such shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous.
The story of V for Vendetta is commonly read as a warning about a specific political situation: fascism, or Britain, or the post-9/11 surveillance state. It is about all of those and none of them. What it is fundamentally about is the relationship between symbols and ideas, and what that relationship reveals about the human notion of freedom. What exactly are the characteristics of a symbol? One might think we unconsciously rely on symbols in every part of our daily lives. A traffic light, for instance, carries meaning we all understand. Red light tells us to stop, a green light does the opposite. This would be a mistake. If we unanimously agreed that blue light means stop, we could swap the colors without losing any meaning. Symbols do not work that way. A traffic light is, in its essence, merely metal and electricity. Efficient, functional, interchangeable. But a flag, for example, also an inanimate object, also just color and cloth. But for those who fought under it, buried people under it, or were born into the nation it represents, the flag carries an enormous, fundamental weight. Weight that a differently colored cloth of the same dimensions does not and cannot carry. So, what power could a piece of cloth, a building, or a mask truly have?
You really think the blowing up Parliament's going to make this country a better place?
To answer that, we need to ask another question. A question that ties into the nature of human experience itself. We, as conscious beings, do not simply encounter a raw world of facts and then attach meaning to them as we see fit. What little evidence of the human consciousness we have suggests that we experience the world through symbols, and that symbols are not merely the result of experience. They may be something like a prerequisite, woven into the very structure of experience itself. Language is the clearest example. We tend to assume that we first have a thought, a feeling, or an experience, and then find words to express it. But language doesn't follow our thoughts. It shapes it. The language available to us determines what we are able to think, feel, and express in the first place. There is a Japanese word, which I will not attempt to pronounce, that captures the bittersweet awareness of impermanence. Speakers of that language doesn't just have a name for that feeling. They have access to it more fully, more consciously, and more precisely than someone who has no word for it at all. And some words, and therefore some symbols, carry a weight more universal than any specific language or culture.
Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth.
And when enough people have invested the same meaning into the same word, image, or a material object, be it a building or a mask, the symbol begins to operate independently, beyond any single person's original intention. The mask of Guy Fawkes appeared on faces in Hong Kong, Warsaw, Cairo, and Sao Paulo, on people who shared nothing in terms of political struggle, nationality, or knowledge of a 17th century Catholic conspiracy. What they shared was not an ideology or even a cause. It was a symbol. A symbol that had come to represent a single idea. An idea that something is not quite right, and there is no point anymore of pretending otherwise.
Symbols are given power by people. Alone, a symbol is meaningless, but with enough people, blowing up a building can change the world.
The power of symbols, as we have seen, is undeniable, proven by the nature of language, human experience, and the world we inhabit together. But a symbol alone is nothing without the idea behind it. A symbol has a physical form, it occupies space, it is subject to physical forces. And like any other material object, it can be broken, burned, or confiscated. An idea is something else entirely. You can destroy a book, burn a film, demolish a building. You cannot destroy what they contain.
But 400 years later, an idea can still change the world.
Because unlike any material thing, an idea held by one person does not diminish its availability to others. And once expressed, there is no force on earth, natural or human, that can fully prevent it from spreading.
I want to die! Don't you die!
Ideas seem to transcend time, culture, and mortality in a way that no physical object seems capable of.
Beneath this mask there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask there is an idea, Mr. Creedy. And ideas are bulletproof.
The ideas we carry, with which we construct our reality and divide the world into concepts such as justice, injustice, equality, inequality, freedom, subjugation, are woven into every decision we make. Whether we are conscious of them or not, these fundamental ideas shape us into individuals with specific beliefs and convictions. And of all the ideas that human beings have carried across centuries, perhaps the most fundamental of all is also the simplest one. An idea that doesn't have to be translated into a political concept or a philosophical movement. The idea that within each person there exists a place that no force can confiscate. A place that belongs to no one else.
It is the very last inch of us. But within that inch, we are free.
Because while we can be deprived of dignity, safety, and physical freedom, an idea can only ever be willingly given away.
I shall die here. Every inch of me shall perish. Every inch but one. It is small and it is fragile, and it is the only thing in the world worth having. We must never lose it or give it away. We must never let them take it from us.
This idea, this foundation, seems to be built into our very nature. It is the very condition that makes the inner voice in our heads perceive the external world as something in which we can exercise what we label as free will. To move from one place to another without restraint, to say one thing without denying another. No matter what symbols we use to express this idea, a political organization, shared ideology, on its fundamental level, it is a unifying principle.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
A principle so embedded within each of us that it operates whether acknowledged or not. And when the symbols and ideas that it represents become visible and apparent to many, it becomes something resembling a force. Like an avalanche, accumulating mass from the slope of a mountain, and by the time it reaches its base, what started as something fragile and singular has become unstoppable.
And then...
This force is solidarity. Solidarity is a concept often used to describe a form of companionship within a group of people who share similar views. That would be a simplification. At its core, solidarity is about recognition, the act of perceiving another person's situation, their suffering, their struggles, their aspirations, with the same seriousness and weight that one gives to one's own. Solidarity is not sympathy, the experience of feeling remorse for someone from a position of relative safety. Nor is it empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It operates within both of these and at the same time above them. It requires a willingness to allow another person's reality, the fundamental idea at the core of their consciousness, to fully enter yours, without the filter of your own needs, anxieties, or assumptions. Such an act is rare, but not impossible. I often think of Viktor Frankl, an Austrian neurologist, psychiatrist, and philosopher, titles that for our purposes are irrelevant. What is not irrelevant is his time in Auschwitz and other concentration camps under the Nazi rule. From 1942 to 1945, Viktor endured total subjugation, deprived of any dignity and personal freedom. And yet, as he later wrote, it was within these moments that he found that even while reduced to the very last fragment of humanity, the primeval source of freedom remained unyielding. In a system designed to reduce human beings to numbers, to erase the very possibility of one person recognizing another as fully real, Viktor used the little free will he had left attending his fellow prisoners, functioning as a medical doctor in an environment where such an act could be only perceived as utterly pointless. His actions can be described in many words. Pointless is not one of them. What he demonstrated was that even when the world is transformed into something that can only be described as hell on earth, the human spirit, filled with symbols, ideas, and solidarity, cannot be fully diminished, no matter how the very fabric of our reality is twisted.
I remember how the meaning of words began to change. I remember how different became dangerous. I still don't understand it. Why they hate us so much.
And as it is with symbols and ideas, so it is with solidarity. The universality of these concepts doesn't lie in shared struggles, history, or language. It requires only a willingness to understand that while each of us carries fundamentally different cultures, assumptions, and opinions, the inner voice that says, "I am me, and therefore I am free," seems to be present in every human being who was ever born. And that acknowledgement, when expressed, no matter if not received, is proven to be enough.
I hope that whoever you are, you escape this place. I hope that the world turns and that things get better. But what I hope most of all is that you understand what I mean when I tell you that even though I do not know you, and even though I may never meet you, laugh with you, cry with you, or kiss you, I love you. With all my heart, I love you. Valerie.
It would be fitting to conclude this essay, following the steps of V, with a stirring call to action, to invoke his spirit, to urge vigilance, resistance, and remembrance. But that would be a betrayal to the very themes I have tried to draw out, and of the film's own concluding message. That everything discussed here has nothing to do with the individual and everything to do with the collective.
You made me understand that I was wrong, that the choice to pull this lever is not mine to make. Because this world, the world that I'm a part of and that I helped shape, will end tonight. And tomorrow a different world will begin that different people will shape. And this choice belongs to them.
You do not need to live under fascism or to be deprived of freedom for any of this to matter. It matters in every situation, in every aspect of everyday life. In the symbols we choose to carry, in the ideas we choose to protect, and in the moments when we allow ourselves to recognize the same in others. There is nothing exceptional about the 5th of November. There is nothing exceptional about V for Vendetta. What each represents was, is, and always will be a feeling present in you, me, in those long gone and those not yet born.
Here's you, and me. Here's all of us.
And I know of no reason why such a feeling should ever be forgot.